Hey there, guys. We're going to take care of all this division at once now. We were leaving it kind of out of the way, but I think we'll take care of it all at once now. And hopefully you'll see why in just a minute. So the bottom line is we cannot have a square root in the final answer of a denominator. So if I have one like this square root of 5 in the denominator, I'm going to multiply by 1. You say, Mr. Tolo, what does that do? That doesn't change anything if I multiply by 1. That's exactly the point. Okay, so here's what my 1 looks like. Square root of 5 divided by the square root of 5 turns out to be 1. Okay, so that's the bottom line. So what happens up top? They're both covered by the square root, so it becomes square root of 5y. On the bottom, you have the square root of 25, which dun 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 makes it a pair of fives, so it is plain old 5. Okay, now the next thing is I cannot reduce things inside the square root with things outside the square root, so that's all we can do with it. All right, so in the next one, notice it's written as um, one big square root. Now you know the square root of 9 is 3, so I can actually make the top so that it looks like 3 square root of x over top of the square root of 2. Now the only problem is what? The top or the bottom? Remember, it's the bottom. So if I have this problem, I'm going to multiply by the problem being the square root of 2 because that is the problem. Remember again, the square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2 is 1. So I'm only multiplying by 1. So I'm not really having a major effect here. So on the bottom, I get the square root of 4, which is plain old 2. Up top, I have 3 times 1 on the outside. On the inside, I have the square root of 2x. My 3 on the outside does not reduce with the 2, so that's all we can do. It almost rhymes. There we go. I'm not into rhyming here. So if I had the square root of x, 8, we can break this down, right? I don't have to use the whole thing, but the bottom line is we're going to leave it together. You'll see why in just a second. Okay, square root of 8y. So what do I have to multiply by? Square root of 8y, because that is not allowed. So the square root of 8xy, if I put things in alphabetical order, I made 64y squared, so I get 8y. Now, I thought about breaking this thing down into 4 and 2, so it becomes 2 root 2, but that wouldn't have helped anything, and I would have had to put it back together when I multiply it later. Now, if I had something else, up top here or on the outside that was going to reduce with 8, maybe I would have done some more with it. But we can always do that afterwards if we need to. Oh, that brings up quite the point here. Oh, man. Let's go ahead. Let's break it down. All right. 8 is 4 and 2, right? So this becomes 2 root 2xy over top of 8y. Oh, man. It has to reduce now. All right. So we can do this afterwards, or we can do it prior to. Just make sure you're always looking for it to be reduced. So I have the square root final answer, 2xy over 4y, and that part is all we can do. All right, so if we were to reduce it first and put this thing in place of that 8, that would have alleviated some of it, um, but we would still had to reduce at some point, whether it's beginning or the end. A lot of my students choose to divide or reduce at the end. All right, so those were, notice, monomials, right? Monomial because we're not adding or subtracting anything else from it. So it was a single term. That's what we call a monomial. Now, if I have to rationalize the denominator, except for this time, I see a binomial, right? I have root 5 minus root 2, so it's a binomial. It has two terms. What's up with that? Well, what would happen if I just multiply by root 5? Well, that would get rid of this root 5, but then I'd have root 10 here. So that's not going to work. Same idea, if I do root 2, I'll get rid of this one, but not that one. Okay, so we have what's called the conjugate. So we're going to multiply by the conjugate. So that's the square root of 5 plus the square root of 2. And whatever I do to the top, I have to do the bottom because we're trying to multiply by 1. There it is. All right, so up top, we're just going to distribute. That's not a big deal. All right, 3 times 1 is 3. Root 2 times root 5 is root 10. Plus 3 times 1 is 3. And root 2 times root 2 is root 4. All right, let's go ahead and clean this up before we do anything in the bottom. So 3 root 10 plus, this turns into regular real 2 So plus 6. All right, so that's going to be the top, but I still have to multiply the bottom. So when I multiply conjugates, I'm going to FOIL this, right? But there's going to be something neat that happens every time. So I get the square root of 25. I have the square root of 10 plus. I have minus the square root of 10, and I have minus the square root of 4. Positive root 10, negative root 10, and they are gone. That's going to happen each and every time if I multiply by the conjugate correctly. All right, so the square root of 25 is 5. The square root of 4 is 2. So that means the denominator is 3. All right, I boxed it up a little bit too early. One more time. Why is that? You want to know why? Because this 3, this 6, and this 3 are all divisible by what number? Dun, dun, dun. 3, that's what. Okay, so we're going to reduce all those. So square root of 10 plus 2, it's over 1, which means I don't really need that at all. Okay, so I could say 2 plus root 10, because normally we try and put that whole number or integer part first. Not required. Okay. All right, let's try that again, because there was a lot of moving parts, a lot of stuff happening in there. So first thing is, first point that you get on like a 3 or 4 point question like this is, okay, what am I supposed to multiply by? First thing I have to multiply by, root 3. If this has minus, I'm using plus. What do I put on the top? The same thing. Remember, we're multiplying by what? 1. That's what. Up top, let's distribute. What do we got? We got 2 root 21. Can I break down 21? Yeah, it's 3 and 7. Any pairs? No. All right. Plus, distribute again. 2 times 1 is 2. And then we got root 35. Seems like we should be able to break that down, but can we? No, because it was 7 times 5. Nothing we can do with that. All right, so we're going to shortcut this. This is the square root of 9 or just 3. All right, so we're going to get root 15 minus root 15. So we're not doing that at all. All right, so FOIL is going to become F and L. That's it. Okay, first and last. So minus the square root of 25. So it's minus 5. Look at that. It's over negative 2. Man, I'm so glad we're done with that. What? We're not done? Okay, because we have all these 2's on the outside with the negative. All right, so what we're going to do to reduce that, let's make it 2 divided by negative 2 is negative root 21 minus root 35, because we need to divide each one of these independently. All right, can I break those down? No, right? That's what we talked about those way up here, saying they came from 3 and 7 and 5 and 7, so I can't break them apart. And they don't go together because they're unlike terms. Unlike terms. All right, so that one's a pretty good one. All right, looks like we got one more and then some independent practice for you if you're in my class. All right, so we went through the square root 8 thing before. So do you want to break it down now, or do you want to wait till later and have to do it later? Well, let's just break it down now. I learned my lesson from last time. I'm not doing that again. 4 and 2, 2 and 2. Okay, so that means this is actually 2 minus 4 root 2. I'm going to do this too. So that means this is going to turn into 2 root 2, right? I have it right here. So 3 plus 2 root 2. Now, I might have to do some more later, but it won't be as much work. So let's make sure you're okay with that. All right, you're okay with that? All right, of course you are. What are you going to multiply by? 2, 4 root 2. This one's minus, so I got to use plus. 2 plus 4 root 2. All right, up top, now we have a true big old FOIL going on here. On the bottom, even though it looks like more stuff going on, these are conjugates. Okay, so that means I only have to do the first and the last. So once we get to a problem like this, the top is actually the worst part because that's a full FOIL. So here's what we got. We got 6. On the outside, I got plus 12 root 2. On the inside, I got 4 root 2. And on the last, I got 8 on the outside. And I have the square root of 4. So let's clean that up. All right, so we got square root of 4 is 2. So this is 16. So I get 6 plus 16 22 plus 16 root 2, because they are like terms right here in the middle. All right, so a lot of even numbers going on here. Let's see if the bottom turns out to be an even number, and then we'll see if we have some work to do. So this time, 2 and 2 multiplied to 4, right? Outside, inside, that's going to give me 8 root 2 minus 8 root 2. So again, that's why we're skipping it, because I know I'm multiplying conjugates. All right, so last thing we have is positive times a negative is negative. 4 times 4 is 16 times the square root of 4. So that's 2. So I get 4 minus 32. So I get negative 28. So we're going to put it over negative 28. Put a box. No, don't put a box around it. Why is that? You know why. Don't make me tell you. These are all even. Let's reduce them. See what happens. All right, let's go by 2 right now, and then if we can do it again, we'll do it again. All right, so I get 11. Okay, so it's not going to happen again. 8 root 2. No, I can't reduce the 2. It's inside the radical. That would be crazy talk. Okay, all right. No, that's just a common mistake I see from kids year after year. So try and make light. Make sure I point it out. Okay, so I can only reduce the items outside if they're all by the same number, this time by 2. Started off by 3. All right, if you're in my class, that means you're having an awesome school year. If you're not, you wish you were. All right, I made that part up, okay? Hi, Mom. Here you go. We got 33, 34, 35. Try those independently. This is in your OneNote, obviously. So these are also the answers. Make sure you're getting them right. Okay, so use a bunch of this open space down here, right? Write it down wherever you need to, and we'll fix these things up next time we're together.